We've got more dismal numbers in the polls for Joe Biden. The latest Harvard-Harris poll has 59% of respondents disapproving of the president. Only 36% say they approve of Biden's job on inflation, while 37% approve of his handling of the economy. Joining me right now is the Harris poll chairman. He's also the chairman of the Stagwell Group and former senior advisor to the Clintons. Mark Penn is here with all of the info. Mark, great to see you. Thanks very much for joining me. Give us your sense of where the polling is today. What can you tell us in terms of what you're seeing?
Well, we're seeing very little movement in the president's ratings. He's overall at 41, as you said, in the 30s at some of the major issues. You know, the voters are really concerned about inflation, crime, immigration, and Democratic voters are very concerned about abortion, and that's come up. We're still seeing very close numbers in the midterms. There are a lot of voters who don't like Joe Biden who are still hanging on to the Democrats here in the midterms. At least that's what they're telling us pollsters. And whether or not that's the case, or they're really going to vote on the almost 70% that see the country going in the wrong direction, or on these concerns that they're saying about the president, that's the big question I think that most pollsters are facing today.
I was looking at New York State earlier. There is a New York City Democrat endorsing Lee Zeldin instead of Governor Kathy Hochul. A minute ago, you said Democrats as well. Do you see independents and some Democrats moving toward the middle, moving over to the GOP side? You've got 56 days away from the midterms, and Harris polling finds the three biggest issues for voters are inflation, the economy, and immigration. And that hits right at independents, right?
It does. I think independents have strongly moved over to the Republican side. I think you're looking at those who voted Democrat last time abandoning Joe Biden, but not yet abandoning the Democratic Party. The Republicans have not closed the sale here. They haven't really, I think, put forward as clearly these issues. You know, but we did also see in the polls a clear rejection of the president's speech, him calling, you know, Republicans and MAGA Republicans a threat to democracy. You saw that the people really see that as strongly divisive, and what they're really looking for is more united leadership.
Yeah, that's a great point. The New York Times is out with a piece saying the polling warning signs are flashing again. They write that Democrat Senate candidates are outrunning expectations in the same places where the polls overestimated the last time President Biden ran in 2020, and that the Hillary Clinton in 2016 was the same situation, Mark. Should we be trusting the polls?
I think you have to look at them carefully. The Harris poll was the single most accurate poll, you know, in the last presidential election, hitting it on the nose. A lot of polls were off by as much as 10 points. And many Senate polls really were way off. I mean, no one thought Susan Collins was going to get elected, even McConnell and Lindsey Graham, and all of these races where hundreds of millions of dollars were spent turned out to be really, you know, a good distance. You're seeing polling in Ohio that's really a +8 state for Republicans, showing more or less dead even in the Senate race. There are real questions here whether or not Republican voters are shy Republican voters when it comes particularly in these Senate races where a lot of money is being spent and it doesn't seem they want to come forward. That is a big question. I think that Times article really hit it, and it said those same places where polls were wrong, they may be wrong again.
Yeah, really interesting. Mark Tepper, jump in here.
Good morning, Mark. So, look, the Dobbs decision seemed to be a momentum changer for the Dems. However, when you go back through history, Republicans tend to gain 3 to 4 points in the polls from Labor Day through Election Day. So I'm curious, what do you think needs to happen for history to actually have a chance at repeating itself here?
Well, you're right. Republicans usually break late. I do think that the Dobbs decision has energized Democrats. I do think this is going to be a higher turnout midterm than expected, because if you go back a few months, only Republican voters were really energized over the issues of inflation, immigration, and crime. Now we're seeing, I think, the electorate broadly, particularly young people, you know, energized over abortion. Look, I think the Republicans are going to have to stay, focused on their message and get it across strongly. And if the voters vote on direction of the country, the job of the president, inflation, immigration, and crime, there'll be a 4 or 5 point gain here, as you expect. And if, in fact, the Democratic message here seems to be based on MAGA Republicans, based on that there is a sealed border, that the economy is good. I don't know. It's a little puzzling where the Democratic message is going. They were doing pretty well until that speech. And that speech, I think, could actually create some backlash.
Yeah, it was quite polarizing, that's for sure. Mark, it's great to get your insights on all of that. Thanks very much.
Thank you.